Obviously, the APD is a huge issue. Even I see, though, that the House of Commons debated it yesterday, but the only resolution I understand that came about it is that they agreed to do a comprehensive review instead of taking any action whatsoever. It is such an onerous, it's so hard to believe and understand how they have done what they have done, and the math that they have used to levy these taxes. So the more dependent on the UK market country is, I think the little more concerned they are, and rightfully so. Those that have a higher mix of the U.S. market are feeling a little more encouraged, because I do believe the U.S. economy has come back a bit. A matter of fact, if I can tell you a quick story, true story. Yesterday, my wife gets a call. My wife is the head of reservations. She gets a call, and it's from a man from Staten Island who has a reservation for next month. Of course, she immediately assumes that he's calling to cancel. He had just gotten his cell phone charged. He'd called family and friends to let everybody know he was okay. But then he called Belongo Bay to pay for the 7-night stay, because he told my wife he wanted to have something to look forward to. So the only call we got from New York City yesterday was somebody who had a tentative booking who called to put his credit card down and pay for the stay.
It could be it could be early days yet, though. But let me bring in Beverly here. Are you as optimistic as Richard Doumeng is?
Well, I think that what I've heard from my own constituents in the Virgin Islands is that there have been very little cancellations. There's been delays mostly, and people have readjusted their schedule. The airlines have been, a good partner in the process, as have our hotels. I still believe that we do have to, while I believe that, people are still in shock that there is massive destruction in some areas. And I believe as power and water begin to be restored, that certainly people are going to be more optimistic. We don't see anything that says that we're going to have massive fallout, and that's extremely positive as close as we are to the winter season.
How telling is what has gone for the earlier part of the year? How telling is that? Because in a number of instances, you have countries having negative tourism growth. And I'm looking at figures put out by your organization, the Caribbean Tourism Organization. Anguilla, Barbados, Bermuda, Grenada, Martinique, Montserrat, St. Lucia, they all seem to have had negative growth. How telling are those figures?
I think that we have other factors there, and certainly Sandy has one of those factors that we're going to have to watch carefully. But I think a lot of the destinations that you named are challenged, especially with the advent of American Eagle leaving the region, and they already have reduced significantly their service to many of those areas. So I think that we have, as a region that is very dependent on tourism, there are indicators that we have to always be watching. Airlift, because that is the primary way that people get to our region unless they're cruising. So that has, any changes there, cost of fuel, any of those things that we still are going to be looking at over the next few weeks and months, if they'll have any impact on fuel prices, could certainly impact airfare, which again impacts the cost of the vacation.
Now, you've both mentioned the APD, the air passenger duty out of Britain, and how it is affecting the Caribbean. But even right here in the islands, how concerned are you that governments themselves are raising airport travel tax? For example, in the Antiguan situation, because the government is building a new terminal building, the taxes have gone up. It will now be more expensive to travel in and out of Antigua. Is that something of concern, and is that something you would raise with the Antigua and Barbuda government?
We're not questioning individual governments' policies to upgrade their infrastructure. The challenge with the APD is that it is an unfair tax because it is not. If you look at what a ticket from the UK to Hawaii and the variance in taxation there versus one from the UK to Antigua, that's the challenge. It's the fact that the tax is onerous and that it is not fair. It is unfair to the region.
But what do you tell travelers to and from Antigua and Barbuda who tell you that they feel the tax is too high, it's discriminatory, and it affects them as well?
I am positive that any increase has an impact on some consideration on the vacation experience. But I don't believe that the increase that Antigua or any of our island nations have is in any way comparable to what we're seeing with APD.
But the point is, you are lobbying against the APD and apparently saying nothing about the new Antigua tax. Some people might consider that almost hypocritical.
Being a member of the Virgin Islands Port Authority, I understand the cost of upgrading the very facilities that we need in order to enhance our tourism product. And I don't claim to be an expert on the Antigua situation, but I do, from my knowledge, I understand that this is a necessity in order to upgrade the facility.
Richard Doumeng?
I think an overall concept of governments trying to tax their way out of recession is just a policy. I'm not an economist, but what worries me is that governments have cut their promotional budgets and their advertising budgets as they are increasing taxes on the people who are coming, who are their customers. And I don't think you need to have a PhD in economics to understand that if you increase the demand for your product and you get more people there, the money that's generated by the increase in visitors can very often offset the contemplated tax increases. And so again, I know it's a very tricky mathematical formula. There's no doubt we have been in a prolonged worldwide recession. And again, I don't know enough about individual countries and their individual tax increase initiatives. We've gone through it here in the U.S. Virgin Islands as well. But certainly, if you take a tax that's being charged for people to come into your country and you're increasing the taxes for people, those same people to leave your country, you put that onto the price of an airplane ticket, you can't be too surprised if the demand for your product goes down.
We're just about to wrap up, but I wanted to ask you, Richard, in terms of your members, the hotels around the region, how out of the recession are they at the moment? How back to normal are things in terms of occupancy rates?
I don't think anybody is back to first quarter 2008, with the lone exception perhaps of the luxury market. There are pockets of the high-end market that have recovered more fully. I think by and large, hotels have increased their average daily rate, but not quite their occupancy levels.
Okay, Beverly, you have the final word. In terms of where tourism goes from here, good outlook?
No, I think that we have reason to, again, like Richard said, be cautiously optimistic. I think that we are beginning to see some improvement in the U.S. economy that has a trickle effect to the Caribbean. I think that we need to certainly stay on the issue of the APD. And I strongly want to concur with Richard that it is imperative that our joint marketing initiatives, both public and private sector, because where I do certainly agree with him is that raising awareness for the region and making sure that we are top of mind in the traveler's mind when they are making their vacation decision is certainly going to bode well for everyone in the region.